All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Dr. Gilligan, and we are here at our first podcast. This is going to be called NightSide with Drs. Gilligan and Deputy Superintendent Dr. Mealey. So welcome to the inaugural podcast of NightSide. It's the official podcast of the North Andover Public Schools. I'm your host, Dr. Gilligan, Superintendent of the North Andover Public Schools. And joining me today is my esteemed colleague, Deputy Superintendent Dr. Mealey.
Thank you, Dr. Gilligan, for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I think this is going to be an excellent format for getting the word out to the community. I'm really excited to be part of this podcast.
Yeah, NightSide aims to bring you closer to the heart of North Andover Public Schools, providing you with a unique medium to dive deeper into issues, innovations, initiatives that we're doing, and to really talk about all things North Andover Public Schools. So each episode, we will also have a special guest. We have one here today, and we'll hold off on that announcement. But it's a way to stay connected if you're a parent, you're a student, or a community member at large.
That's right. It's all about dialogue, discovery, and disseminating information to our great community. We want to make sure we're able to share the amazing stories and achievements and milestones that make North Andover Public Schools a special place for academic growth, personal development, and community engagement.
Absolutely, Dr. Mealey. This podcast is an opportunity to go beyond the traditional channels of communication and engage with the North Andover community and the public schools in a more intimate and accessible way. Through NightSide, we aim to foster a stronger sense of unity and understanding among all stakeholders involved in the North Andover Public Schools.
And we want to make sure we emphasize that it's not just for parents or students. It's for everyone who wants to get a deeper understanding of our schools, whether you're a community member, a prospective parent, a staff member, or just someone who's interested in the world of education.
That's right. Again, Dr. Mealey, spot on. So with each episode, our guest will bring their unique perspective and insights, shedding light on the different aspects of North Andover Public Schools. Whether it's discussing curriculum, sharing stories of student success, exploring community partnerships, NightSide will be a place where we can gain knowledge and inspiration.
Yeah, we're excited to start on this podcast journey with everyone. We're hopeful that we're able to bring you exciting, informative, and thought-provoking conversations with our guests. And we hope through NightSide you'll come away not only with a better understanding of North Andover Public Schools, but also with a deeper appreciation for the incredible work being done by our students, staff, and community.
So stay tuned as we kick off this podcast adventure. We'll be covering a wide range of topics that are relevant and reflective of our shared commitment to our students in education and growth.
And with that, why don't you introduce our guest, Dr. Gilligan?
All right. It's our honor and privilege to be here today to introduce our first guest on what we hope to be many podcasts in the future. This person is a tremendous human being. His name is Ben Abbot. He is a senior at North Andover High School. Many of you may see him every other week on the school committee meetings. He is the student representative from North Andover High, but he is the senior, most experienced representative. He does a tremendous job with that. He's very involved at North Andover High School in extracurricular activities, and he's a student that challenges himself all the time. Ben's currently enrolled in 5 AP classes, if you can believe that, Dr. Mealey.
I do believe it.
Yeah. Incredible challenge. So without further ado, we would like to introduce our guest, North Andover High School senior, Ben Abbot. So Ben, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey and experience as a student in the North Andover Public Schools?
Sure, Dr. Gilligan. Just wanted to start by thanking you guys for having me on the podcast. I'm excited to be here. I'm a senior at North Andover, like you had said. I've been in the North Andover District since kindergarten. My sister also went through the North Andover District until middle school. And in high school, I've really tried to take the most of my opportunity, joining as many clubs as I can, and really putting myself out there as someone just excited to learn, excited to lead, and especially looking to lead others. And when I was a freshman, it was still COVID. COVID happened when I was in 8th grade, and freshman year we were in school 2 days a week and remote on Wednesdays. And really from the beginning then, I joined student council, which I've been in for the past 4 years. And sophomore year, a lot more clubs, a lot more activities were were around and active. And I really kind of launched myself into a couple of them, especially science team has been a really significant thing for me for the past 3 years. History club with Mr. Sheehy has been a very significant activity for the past 3 years. And then kind of over all of this, I've been very involved in Project 351, which is a youth empowerment movement in the state. It was founded about 15 years ago. And I was selected in 8th grade, and I'm sure we'll talk about that some more. But that's been one of the most significant things that's really shaped how I see my role in the community and who I am now.
Ben, you mentioned you went to, you've been here since kindergarten. What elementary school did you go to?
I went to Franklin Elementary School as a Dragon.
The Franklin Dragons. All right.
Am I asking the next question?
Yeah, Dr. Mealey, that's why I was pointing at you. You got the next question, Dr. Mealey.
Okay, so Ben, it's funny you talked about 351. I attended the superintendent's conference this summer with Dr. Gilligan, and I was sitting in the audience, and they were getting ready to have a panel discussion of students from across the state. I think it was 5 students.
Yep. 4. Yep.
4 students who were representing all of the students that are in the program, and I'm looking at it and I'm saying, man, that looks like Ben. And it was. Ben was one of the ones chosen to represent for the 351 program.
Well, it's funny. I was a little bit late getting in there, so I couldn't get a seat. It was packed with every superintendent, assistant superintendent, director of special education, all across every town and city in the state. So I'm in the way back, and I really appreciated the shout-out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he did a great job.
He did a great job. I'm going to let him talk about that.
Yeah. All right, so my question, what do you think are the biggest challenges students face today, and how do you personally navigate them? And I have a follow-up question, too.
Okay. All right. I think number one is definitely mental health. I think that's been an issue forever in public schools, but especially now with social media and with kind of like more recognition of mental health, which there has been. I think there's been a lot of good efforts in the last decade, 2 decades, but that means that, people are more willing to talk about it. People who may have had anxiety are more willing to talk about it. So it's a lot more of a prevalent and visible issue, especially now. I think there's also a lot of distractions in school. Social media is a big one. And then there's, of course, drinking and alcohol and drugs and things like that. There's vaping, of course, in the bathrooms and in the locker rooms. But I definitely think that mental health is very significant. We have a focus room at the high school, which I know does good work, helping students chill out and calm down. I know a lot of students personally go up there, eat their lunch. There's cooking that happens there as well. And I know that guidance does a lot of good work. But mental health is an incredibly difficult topic, or incredibly difficult issue, and incredibly difficult to solve. So I know that's really significant for a lot of students at North Andover.
That's a challenge across not only North Andover, Massachusetts, the country. And it seems to be something that people have become more aware of, particularly after COVID, right? A lot of people went into isolation. And what I like to say to folks all the time, Ben, and I think you're exactly right when you started, we just never know what shoes people walk in. We don't know where they're coming from. And oftentimes people think there's a stigma or they think that they're alone. And when I talk to parents, I say, we have the North Andover Parent Resource Network, or we have these resources. And if we can connect just one parent to talk to someone else and realize, there's nothing to be ashamed about. You're not ashamed if you break your leg and get a cast, but it is invisible. And if it's important for people to know that there's a lot of families in North Andover, Massachusetts, everywhere, that have the same struggles, and there's nothing to be ashamed about.
So my follow-up to facing challenges, Dr. Gilligan knows this about me. One of my pet peeves are people who say kids today, as if kids today don't have the same respect that they had, or are just not as good as the generation before. And every single generation has said that about kids today. Yep. But hearing that, what would you want the older generation to know about your generation? What do you think they misunderstand or don't understand the challenges that you're facing? What would you want to say to them?
It's a good question. I think, and this kind of has to do with mental health, but my generation is very, very active. I think in the past 50 years or so, there's been a number of key figures who've kind of laid the stepping stones by which my generation is really kind of taking off from in terms of the environmental crisis, the mental health challenge in America, hunger, clothing insecurity. And I think that like this is the beginning of a real generation that's kind of taking what was taken apart during the 20th century in terms of those issues and really kind of putting it back together. Yeah, and I think, with mental health, Dr. Gilligan touched on this, but when we're talking about it more, I think more students are willing to kind of come out and share. So it seems like it's a growing problem. It seems like students, like this generation, they're the ones that are having this mental health, and it's their fault because they use social media so much. But I kind of think that, kids have always had this, but when there's more conversation about it, it just seems like there's so much more, it's so much more prevalent. But I think there's always been mental health. And as we talk about it more and as it becomes, normalized or more normal to talk about it, it's just going to look like it keeps growing. But that doesn't mean that the efforts that are done to help with it aren't doing anything. In fact, I think when it becomes more apparent and people are talking about it, it's helping.
That's a great insight.
It's good. It's a good insight, and we heard it loud and clear during COVID. We've added 4 counselors across the district because we know the needs there. Mm-hmm. One of the things I was most impressed with at North Andover High is I went to the mental health fair. Did you go to that?
Yeah, no, that was very impressive. And the most impressive thing about that is that they did it completely free. And I know this year they're looking to get funding. Last year I think they had over 20 guests, a guest speaker. They took pretty much half the day, and every student went. It was so impressive.
Yeah, really awesome. Dr. Mealey, I want to get back to you. So I got a quote, and I wanted to see if you can figure out who said this quote and when. The children now love luxury. They have bad manners, contempt for authority. They show disrespect for elders and love chatter in place of exercise. Children are now tyrants, not the servants of households. They no longer rise when elders enter the room. They contradict their parents, chatter before company, gobble up all the dainties at the table, cross their legs, and tyrannize their teachers.
Yeah, I bet you that was like Socrates or somebody like that, right? Way back in ancient Greece. And that just emphasizes that every single generation says it about the youngest generation.
Yeah, you win the prize of the day for trivia. It was Socrates, and that was a long, long time ago. But I feel really comfortable as superintendent. I'm glad that our future is in the hands of people like Ben Abbott and the people at North Andover High School. I think we're in good hands.
Absolutely. I get to sit next to Ben and our student reps through the years and listen to them, and then the student presentations that we have. And I always come away with the same conclusion. We are in good hands. We are in good shape.
Absolutely. All right, Ben, we're going to move on to another question. So in your opinion, in your perspective, what's been the most meaningful and memorable experience during your time as a student here?
Mm-hmm. I would have to talk about Project 351. I joined in 8th grade. I was selected from my class at the middle school. And at first when I was in Project 351, really they talk a lot about your why for service, your why for leadership. It's a youth empowerment organization. It's statewide. 8th graders are selected from every town in the state, kind of based on merit. And we all attend Launch Day, which is in Boston at Faneuil Hall. We hear from different politicians. The governor speaks. And then we kind of go out into Boston and kind of practice what we just heard preached. And then throughout the rest of the year, we lead different clothing drives and civic initiatives in the town. And they talk a lot about your why. They talk about the passion behind service and service as a privilege. And for me, that really changed me. Because before then, I had done service with my synagogue. I'm Jewish, so we had done service there. But it really had just been kind of like an activity to fill your Saturday. But with Project 351, I heard so many people talking about this as what made them, and that they really believed in these results. I remember during COVID, we listened on these Zoom calls, and Congressman Jim McGovern spoke of hunger, and he kind of said that, like, someday the work that you're doing will end hunger. And that was really transformative, to kind of learn that the service with enough passion, with enough drive, really will make a difference. But it's up to you to provide that drive and kind of find that why within you. And that was transformative for me. But as I advanced in Project 351, at first my why was, it made my family happy. It really did. It made my family very proud. But kind of as I saw the work that I was doing as a 13, 14-year-old, as an 8th grader, and as a freshman, it really became that, like, it was very surprising and gratifying that me as a young person, I could do all this amazing stuff. And as I continued, I I kind of took on some more leadership roles as I graduated that first ambassador year. And as I became a high schooler, I began leading a team of ambassadors from across the state. And then I began mentoring a regional group of alumni. And this past summer, I was invited to talk at the Massachusetts Superintendent Conference on the Cape. And I was invited to talk about the experience of a public schooler in Massachusetts and kind of one message that I would give to the assembled educators and administrators. And I talked about the need to kind of, I guess, encourage students to really embrace this leadership and service, because there's just so many, there's a lot of benefits that come from it. I think it really helps with confidence. It really helps with kind of seeing your place in the community and seeing your place in the world. And it was a phenomenal experience.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly exemplify the S for service and raise. And I couldn't have been more impressed. I mean, for those who don't know, Project 351, it has its title because there are 351 cities and towns in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and there's one selected from each community to be the representative, and Ben was the one. And now he is with the alumni program. But not only was he terrific, I mean, I think it would be very hard for another superintendent to speak in front of 300 superintendents, assistant superintendents. I mean, it was a big crowd. You guys were on right before the keynote speaker from Harvard Business School, who wrote the book Forged in Crisis. And you were really poignant, right on point, and just you did a great job. And there were only 4 of you. And, I couldn't have been more proud listening to you that day. But more importantly, I had a chance to sit with Ben after. And he was with 2 students. One was from Abington and one was from Sandwich, Massachusetts. And it was really, they were supposed to be doing some work. I don't know. But I distracted them from that. And I really asked them a couple questions like, if you were in charge of schools and you could change one thing, what would it be? What's been your best experience? And it was really refreshing, re-energizing to hear what they had to say. I think student voice is one of the most important things we can have, and getting to know students is really important to me, and I think we all have to continue to make an effort to do so. So
yeah, you used both the same words I would have used. I was impressed with Ben and the other students, but also I was proud, selfishly, that Ben was representing North Andover, and he did such a great job. And I say that just based on the impact I saw him have on superintendents and the words that you spoke that day.
And for the next 2 days, everywhere I went, I'd get a high five from the other superintendents saying, "Hey, Gilly, you got a shout out from the student." I said, "Yeah, he's the best." All right.
So next question, Ben, what initiatives or programs do you think have had the most positive impact on students in our district, and why do you think that?
Mm-hmm. I think athletics is a really significant one. I think athletics are just amazing for students. I think it really encourages them not only to go to school to participate in these athletics, but really to achieve in school. And then as our sports achieve, like I remember when I was a 7th grader, the football team won the state championship. And those people were really seen as like hometown heroes. And they came to the middle school, I believe. They went to the elementary schools when I was in elementary school. And we really looked up to them. And I think just athletics really help forward those kind of raise values. But beyond athletics, clubs and extracurriculars are very significant. I've really found my people in science team and history club. Those have been kind of communities where I found people who are proud, not necessarily embarrassed to study, especially in that science team, where kind of this almost like this love for learning and love for knowledge emanates from the advisor, Mr. Vigent, and kind of permeates through the club. People really throw themselves into learning, not necessarily to win anything, but just for the sake of learning about the different science events. Beyond those clubs, I think the music department is really significant, and the theater department, I know, puts in hours, like countless hours of work to prepare for their productions, and people really, really appreciate that. The marching band is a sport in and of itself. Sometimes even I think it's more intense than a sport. I see them practicing there. After all the sports, use the field, so they're there late at night preparing for their competitions. And I think kind of all those together form like this extracurricular network where people, so school is stressful, but these extracurriculars, while still related to school, while you're still studying science, they provide kind of a release. And I think it's really important for students, especially for students to get more and more involved. Because a lot of students do not do any of those. They kind of leave after school and they go home. But, public school is what you put into it.
It's funny, again, at my seat at the school committee meeting, when students come in, I love the diversity of opportunities that our students have in the passion that they demonstrate, whether it's, you name them, athletics, the drama department, chorus, band, robotics, and the students getting an opportunity to present and the passion they show. And it's great that they have an opportunity to pursue their passion.
Yeah, and that passion is so important for students to find. Because it's very easy to go through school and just kind of, go through the rhythms. But once you find that passion, for me, it's science team and Project 351, for others, it's theater. It really kind of frames everything else you do, for sure.
Absolutely. So, Ben, you take 5 AP classes right now. You don't hear a lot of seniors in high school with taking 5 AP classes. You do incredible work with service, and you're involved in, there's a lot of things you didn't even mention you're involved in, like unified basketball. There's a few others I know. You've been a class officer, the class president last year. So my question is this: how do you maintain? And I think this is one that you talked about earlier about being healthy. But how do you maintain a healthy work-life balance as a student? And do you have any advice for your peers, other students, in managing that time effectively?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, everything that I do, I really love. The classes I take not just to take an AP, but because I'm really genuinely interested in the subjects. Like this year, I couldn't really imagine dropping down and necessarily learning less. And in one of my classes, I could take an AP in. The clubs that I do them because I really love. What I lead is because I want to inspire others the way that I was inspired when I was an underclassman or in years past. In Project 351, I do it because I love it, and I really think the impact I have is transformative. So I think that's first and foremost, that students can get burnt out when they do things that they don't necessarily love. And that's not to say that sometimes I don't love my classes. Sometimes calc is really difficult and physics is really difficult. But I always remember that, I'm taking these because I love it. And everything I learn, it's because I really want to. But beyond that, I go to the gym every day. I go to the Y and lift weights, and that's just a real release. I've met new friends there who are not in my classes. And it's nice always to work with your hands and kind of take your mind off those things by putting in that physical whatever. I read every night before I go to sleep. I think that's a nice way just to kind of get out of your headspace and into someone else and kind of chill out. And then beyond that, I have a great network of friends and a wonderful family. And yeah, I think they help a lot. So, yeah.
How old are you, Ben?
I'm 18.
18. Ben has been on this earth for 18 years and knows a lot more about a good life balance than people who have been here for 50 or 60 years.
Yeah, probably me and you could learn from Ben, Dr. Mealey. As I've got to know him as the school committee representative, it's been remarkable. He's wise beyond his years.
Exactly.
And I think we could heed some of his advice. I know I could, particularly around the exercise. I like it, but, I always find excuses why I'm not doing this, and we put a lot of hours in the office, and, I think we could learn from Ben a little bit around that. But it's really wonderful to hear about connecting with other people. And I think in this world, you talk about a love for the classes. I think you're unique in the sense of you really have a passion for science, but you also have a passion for helping people. And I'm really excited for your future, thinking about, how you'll combine those two loves in school and beyond, because I think you'll stick with the service, and I think you're going to make a remarkable difference in this world. So
great segue. We're going to hear from Ben right now. Can you share any personal goals or aspirations you have for your education and beyond, and how you plan to achieve them?
I have no idea. I'm not declaring a major for college just because I kind of want to go into college and be shaped by the classes I really stumble into. That's kind of my plan, to see what I'm interested in at first. So I think if 5 years from now I'm graduating from wherever I went with a real passion and a real and I know, maybe even by then I still don't know exactly what I want to do, but I know that I've used my time in college to further kind of develop what I truly love and how I can help people, like Dr. Gilligan said, while practicing that in the STEM field or maybe even in the humanities field. I think I'll be happy.
And again, it just takes a maturity to realize you don't have to know right now.
Mm-hmm.
You don't.
Yeah.
Before we get to the last question, for the folks out there that don't know, I mean, I think it's changed quite a bit since I applied to college or Dr. Mealey applied to college. How is that process these days, and what kind of supports do you get with it? Because I hear a lot about it.
Yeah, it's not fun. not fun at all. I did a little work over the summer, not as much as I should have, so it's mostly been during the school year. I've definitely had to kind of sacrifice a little bit of my schoolwork to get it done. It's extremely competitive. People take the SAT 5-6 times. I think I've taken it 4 times to get into that like 99th percentile range. And even that's not good enough. I did very well, but it's still not good enough for a lot of the colleges I applied to. And then beyond that, you really scrutinize over those essays. You know that people have other people writing them for them, things like that. So you really spend a ton of time doing that. And it's all just very stressful, you know. I think that's a big part of being a senior is being stressed out for the first couple months because of applications. And it gets you to start to think about kind of the broader picture. What do you want to do in life and who do you want to be? And as an 18-year-old, you know, you start to think like, how am I? Am I really supposed to know what I want to be and what I want to do? Like, I feel like there's a lot of adults that still don't really know. So do I have to start thinking about that now? It's a tough question.
Yeah, I bring it up because, you know, I think at least when I applied, Dr. Mealey, I think the applications might have been due in February, the end of January, you know, and now there's
I have one due tonight, November 1st.
November 1st.
Yep.
So you haven't hit they haven't hit the submit button on it yet.
Not yet, yeah.
So, you know, you get this early decision on for schools on November 1st, which is typically binding.
Yep.
And then have you applied to what's called early action anywhere?
Yeah, so that's where I'm applying tonight. A couple schools, early action. So
Good luck.
Thank you.
And when do you find, so when you apply early decision, early action, do you find out earlier than?
Yeah, so I'll find out in December, and then we'll go from there.
Outstanding. Well, I would keep hitting the gym, you know, keep up with that. And, you know, I know you're going to, no matter where you go, you're going to be successful. And any university or college would be lucky to get you. All right, this brings us to our last question. So, Mr. Abbott, what advice would you give incoming students who may be nervous or uncertain about starting high school?
So one thing that I was thinking about earlier in our conversations that I feel like I see a lot of, in Project 351, there's a lot of really accomplished, very smart students. In some of my class at the high school, a lot of very accomplished, very smart students. But I feel like they enter high school with almost like an idea that they have like a checklist of things they need to do. They need to do this many clubs. They need to apply to National Honor Society. They need to take these classes. But I feel like that's just so wrong to kind of see high school as like just a step in like the meritocracy of eventually getting into a good college, rather than kind of like where you're supposed to find out kind of what interests you, which is what I think it should be. High school should be where you take classes based on what you enjoy and you see where that leads you, not taking classes because you think that it's required on some kind of imaginary list. So I'll definitely give any student who would listen that advice, that just take what you enjoy and do what you enjoy. And if you don't enjoy it, then don't take that class or don't do that activity. But that being said, I think every student should really use everything that the high school has to offer to the best degree and join as many clubs as they want, do as many sports as they want, because that's where I think you find really close friends, really supporting communities, and where you can find yourself. So
awesome. Well, Ben Abbott's been a tremendous guest today. We've been thrilled to have him. He represents the best of the best here in North Andover. And Ben, do you have anything else you want to add for us, or any advice you want to give us as educational leaders? Anything before we wrap it up with you today?
Just listen to students. I think this is a step in that for sure. And everything that Dr. Gilligan and Dr. Mealey, you guys do to kind of get your face out at the high school and at the middle schools and the elementary schools, that's phenomenal. I think when students can see their administrators, it shows that they care, and it shows that they're people too. So
I have some advice for Ben before he goes.
Okay, Dr. Mealey's coming in with the advice. Here we go.
Just keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job.
Tremendous job.
thank you.
And so I guess this could be like school committee, Dr. Mealey. We can cut them loose or keep them around for the last segment, which is going to be a quick one. I think we're a little bit over time in our first podcast here.
I didn't know we had a time limit.
We don't.
Okay.
We were shooting for 30 minutes, but I think we're over that. All right. Maybe Ben can chime in on this a little bit. Just a few other updates. Just a quick lightning round here of what's happening in North Andover Public Schools. Dr. Mealey, do you want to talk about the middle school addition and the new Kittredge School?
Yeah, both of those are exciting. Part of the facilities master plan phase 2, the first one being the middle school, and everyone, you should have seen that things are going on over there. The foundation has been poured, and things are happening. That's exciting because the middle school's been, and Ben can certainly attest to this, has been tight for a while now, lack of space. So we're taking care of that. And we'll be showing some pictures at the school committee meeting tomorrow night of what's happened so far. And then the Kittredge is another exciting one. We're working through the Mass School Building Authority on that project for what would we anticipate be a new Kittredge. There's no guarantee. They might come back and say, oh, you can renovate the existing and add on, but we're anticipating that should be a new building. In the next couple of years, you'll see that project starting up. But we're just working through the school building authority process right now.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I've been in this district 26 years. Dr. Mealey, how many years have you been here?
This is my 15th.
Yeah, and Mr. Abbott, this is your 13th?
Yeah, 13th.
13th year in the district, so we've got a lot of experience. I don't think I would have imagined that we'd be building a $21 million square foot, 26,000 square foot addition at the middle school, and seeing it come to fruition is pretty remarkable. And the Kittredge School, if anyone's ever been in there, I mean, they use up every space possible, and that project is well on its way. Just a couple other notes. Ben mentioned the marching band earlier. It's one of my. I love the marching band. I love to go to all student activities, and I think I've hit just about all the sports and activities this fall at different levels. But the marching band did a tremendous job on October 14th at the NASBA competition. It's great to host it here at North Andover. If you ever need something coordinated, NAMA is remarkable at the coordination. So just a shout out to the band was really awesome. And we talked about this a little bit, but I think this is the last point. And at school committee last week, we had the middle school students they're ninth graders now, but they're in Mr. McGravy's class last year. And they presented their student-led civics projects to the school committee. And it was really inspiring and showed a deep understanding of the role of participation of participating in society and civic engagement. And it really, I think, looking at the students presenting and how passionate they were, I was actually thinking it seems like there's a couple of young Ben Abbotts in that group. So I'm excited to see what comes of that. For those who don't know, we do have a newsletter that goes out. It will be going out. The November edition should be going out shortly. That's always on our main webpage, and that is NorthAndoverPublicSchools.com. It's right there in the featured news. Cindy Parent is the organizer of that, and she's been doing it for quite some time, and it just keeps getting better and better. So when you get the newsletter and the blast email, this is to the parents, please read it if you get a chance. It has a ton of information, and it's really, really tremendous.
So just one other thing. In addition to the facilities master plan, we're doing a fields recreational facilities master plan. And there's a survey that's going to be going out, if not today, tomorrow. So we ask you to participate in that survey. It's feedback that's important as we look to improve the facilities around town.
Terrific. All right, that's going to wrap up the first podcast of KnightSide with Dr. Gilligan, Superintendent, Dr. Mealey, Deputy Superintendent, and the first guest ever here in the NACAM studio, Senior Ben Abbott.
Who raised the bar high.
He raised the bar high. I mean, we might have to have him back on a regular basis. Anyway, thanks for listening, and hope you enjoy. Take care of yourselves.